Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts, the podcast that cannot resist a good Ouija board story. I'm your haunted host, Jennifer, a professional medium and a teller of ghost stories. Tonight, I have for you the classic, terrifying Ouija board ghost story. Personally, I do not have any issues with Ouija boards. I think they're a tool like any other that we could use to communicate with the dead or do some divination work with unseen forces. I even love the aesthetic of Ouija boards, obviously with my planchette tattoo. But I can respect the fact that not everyone has that opinion, that they steer clear of Ouija boards. And here I am even contradicting myself, feeling personally comfortable with Ouija boards. I'm going to share some ghost stories that involve them. And why? Well, I'm an Aquarius, and I tend to contradict myself all the time. I even think this podcast can kind of contradict itself. It's spooky and spiritual. Usually you have a paranormal podcast or you have a spiritual podcast. You don't do both. But I love both, and I hope that there are plenty of people out there who love both too. And that's why we're connecting together with these episodes. At this point, I'm kind of rambling on, but I also want to break format a little bit and be able to have conversations like this with you so that you can get to know me a little bit. And I want to encourage you to contact me and let me know your thoughts on all things spooky and spiritual. And of course, after those spooky stories, join me for a new in-studio spirit reading with my podcast guest. And also join me at my seance table after that for a message from the spirits. I love to open up the space for a spirit to come close to connect to someone who is listening to the podcast. And since you are, this message could be for you. That's later on in the podcast. But first, the spooky, the Ouija board stories are manifesting right now. This happened a long time ago in my teenage years. My two best friends wanted to have a slumber party. We invited some of our other friends, 8 of us in total. After dinner, we went down to the basement where my friends' parents fixed up the rec room to accommodate all of us with mats and sleeping bags. Someone had the idea to try a Ouija board session. Apparently, one of the girls who lived next door happened to have a board, so she ran home really quick to get it. About this time, I gave them all a great big nope, not me. I told my friends about a session my sister and cousins had a couple years before, and instead of being scared, they were extremely intrigued and even more excited to give it a try. They called me a chicken for not wanting to play, but I didn't care. I went home and went to bed. The next day, the doorbell rang. It was my best friend, looking very pale and wide-eyed. She looked at me seriously and told me what happened after I left. They were asking silly questions like who was going to marry whom, but then they asked questions they shouldn't have. Who were they talking to? How did they die? Could they prove that this was all real? They began receiving knocks in response to their questions. Originally, my friend thought it was her older brother playing a prank, but after trying to catch him in the act and scare him in return, they discovered he was in the living room with the rest of the family, watching TV. More intrigued than ever, the girls decided to keep talking to the board. At that point, they started getting unnerving answers and hearing strange noises. My friends got scared and quit the session. They decided to call it a night and all climbed into their sleeping bags. That's when things really started. She told me that the room got incredibly cold, and there were strange noises they couldn't explain or locate. Then they began to hear something shuffling around them, walking and pacing, but they couldn't see anything. A couple of the girls yelped after being poked by unseen fingers. They were so scared they began to make a commotion that alarmed her mother to the point she ran down to the basement to find out what was going on. When they told her mom what they did, she was angry at them for bringing a Ouija board into the home. She made the girl take the board back to her place and get it out of her house. Things quieted down after that, but needless to say, they didn't get much sleep that night. I was that high school emo girl with the Ouija board permanently in the trunk of her car, ready to play whenever we wanted a spooky, adventurous night. And my friends and I lived close to 5 extremely old and rundown cemeteries within 20 miles of my small town. I was around 18, and one night my friends declared that they were bored, so let's go explore the old town graveyard at midnight. Myself and about 2 carloads of friends showed up, armed with flashlights. This graveyard was always silent. There's no noise, no animals to be heard. It really sets the tone as a creepy place. We came across a knocked-over gravestone that made the perfect makeshift table for our Ouija board. Our backs were to the forest where an old church foundation remained. We set up our board. My best friend and I sat together, our backs still to the forest, facing the graveyard entrance. We started with the typical, "Is anyone there?" And the board answered, "Yes." "What's your name?" The board spelled out, "Sarah." "How old are you?" 23. "Were you married?" "Yes." "Any kids?" "Yes, 1." Everyone in our group was in front of us with flashlights pointed at the board. At this point, we heard footsteps, 2 deliberate footsteps coming from behind us. One of the flashlights goes out. The friend that was holding it was done, and back to the car she goes. We continue. We asked a few random questions, getting answers. Then 2 more steps were taken towards us. We heard the leaves rustle and a stick break. The footsteps stop. We look, shining lights, and there was nothing there. We started whispering among ourselves, speculating. As we are looking towards the forest, we hear 2 more steps. Okay, well, now they're too close. We said goodbye to Sarah, being successful in getting our evening scare. But as we were about to run back to the car, I got curious. Whose grave were we sitting on? The name faces the forest, and we couldn't see it when we sat down. My best friend and I went to check it out, weary of the curious ghost who could still be hanging around. The gravestone read, "Sarah Stange, wife of Maurice Stange, 23, at death, mother." Our board had all the information correct. We had not visited this stone before. Generally, we stayed clear of the church area. We then ran to the car and cleared out of there. I've been back to the graveyard many times. I always take care to visit Sarah and say hello. Her stone is now upright, and her gravesite is now cleaned up and taken care of. This story has been submitted by Sunny. If you have a ghost story you would like to share, please email me at speaknow@italktoghosts.com. Thank you, Sunny, for your story. My first apartment was in Alameda, California. I lived in this great, big Queen Anne Victorian home, and my apartment was on the 3rd floor. I was a single mom, and my girlfriend and I didn't like to be in the place alone. There were quite a few things that happened in the apartment that led us to believe we had a ghost. Like, I would come into the kitchen and the cabinet doors would be open, or our living room had a closet and it would sound like someone was in there kicking the door. One evening, I went to check on my son, and there was a silhouette of a woman dressed like she was from the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, and she had curly hair like ringlets, and she was wearing an old period dress. This woman was hovering over my son, peering down at him in his crib. Because of all this activity, we thought that one night we would experiment with a Ouija board. I invited my friend Rochelle to join us. Through the board, we made contact with a spirit by the name of Al. Al was very pleasant. He told us that the woman I saw was his wife and that they liked having a baby at the home. My friends and I talked to the spirit off and on a couple of different times, and then one evening Al says that his son was coming and that his son was evil. I don't remember his exact words, but basically that is what he said, and that we should get rid of the Ouija board because we shouldn't make contact with him. We agreed at the time, but in the end, we didn't listen, and we continued to use the Ouija board. Activity in the house really amped up. I had a party, and I was sitting next to a window, and there were one of those screens that the open window holds down. That screen, being held in by a very heavy window, flew out of the window and did a cartwheel before falling. It was very intense. We weren't on the Ouija board that night. It was just a bunch of friends hanging out and talking. Next time we did use the board, we asked the spirit who is in the house, and I don't remember what the spirit's name was, but he was very angry. Feeling the planchette on the board felt very strong. Our hands felt very heavy. And the board went on to tell my girlfriend what kind of car she was going to have, how many kids she was going to have, what she was going to go through. And the board went on to tell my girlfriend very mean, negative things about her future. I was feeling very protective of my friend, and I told this entity not to be mean to her. And then it turns its sights on me and told me that my brother was going to pass away. I ended up taking the Ouija board over to my brother's house. We told him what happened and asked him to get rid of it for us. Instead of myself being smart and putting it in the garage and getting rid of it, I didn't. I assumed that he would, and he didn't. Honest truth, my brother passed away a few months later. As I was helping my family clean his room, I found that Ouija board on the shelf in his bedroom. Hello, my dear spooky friend. Do you have a paranormal experience you would like to share? Submit your ghost stories to be read on this podcast. I love sharing true ghost stories, and yours could be among them. Email me your story at speaknow@italktoghosts.com. Let's be spooky together. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest this evening is Rochelle. Rochelle, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
I'm doing well. I am. Now, you contacted me about a message from the spirits that I did on one of the episodes, and you were hoping to connect further with that. And of course, I want to have that conversation with you. Now, that message involved your father. And this evening, while I was grounding and centering, stepping into the space, he was there. And his personality, he is showing me, he was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, well, normally I'm going to sit down here. I do this little prayer. And he's like, are we going to talk or not? And not in like a rude way, but my sense of his personality is he had an authoritative side to him. And he was used to when he needed your attention, you needed to be there. Like, the time is now, let's do this thing. And if for some reason you're not paying attention or giving it your attention, boom, your opportunity's gone. He's moving on.
He was quite relaxed, but yes, he also, when he wanted to do things, he wanted to get it out of the way.
With his line of work, did he do something that had a lot of structure to it? Like, I'm hearing like the word infrastructure, and like interested in politics and that sort of thing.
My dad read up on many things, and he had very good knowledge about just about everything. But work-wise, he wasn't really connected to a specific job. He was, a jack of all trades. He did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He was, yes, it wasn't a specific.
So he had that variety about him. He's definitely coming through as smart, intelligent, and I feel like later in life, the things that when he kind of slowed down and maybe took the time to like watch a little TV and stuff, he would watch things that mirrored his interests in life.
Yes, he did. He liked documentaries and stuff, but he also read a lot. He spent most of his time reading books, but on various subjects.
Every subject.
Mm-hmm.
He was showing me his glasses. And I'm wondering if later in life there was like an eye irritant or allergies or something like that, something involving his eyes.
Very light sensitive.
Light sensitive. Okay. Maybe that's how it's coming through. Because like when I do readings, it's not like it's this clear telephone line. It's more like bits and pieces are coming in, and sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a visual, sometimes, and it was like, okay, what's going on with the eyes? Why is it irritating, And I don't like to kind of guess or translate, but sometimes it's like, okay, was it allergies? What is it that is sensitive about the eyes? So that makes sense. Okay, cool. Now, I mentioned he is rather smart. As I'm writing my notes, I started kind of writing faster and faster. And it's like, oh, what is this influence? Like, didn't matter if the handwriting was very legible. It's like, get the notes down, get the thoughts down, and kind of messy handwriting and not even paying attention to the lines on the paper anymore. Does that sound like something he would have done?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it wasn't very specific. We actually found some of his notes afterwards, and it's there was like shopping lists, scribbled quotes in between, and so it was just whatever was inside. Yeah,
Yeah.
things he wanted. It was like to-do lists and shopping lists and quotes and things he would like to research, and it was all mixed up on one
Yeah.
page.
Like, get it down, get it
Yeah.
down, get it down, get it down. Yeah, that, because when I noticed my own influence is being changed and it's not my usual behavior, I'm like, oh, I have to mention this, because it's just like, write it down quickly, just get it all out there. And yeah, that's always very interesting to me when that happens. When you were little, did he give you some money for candy? Like, I'm seeing like, here's some change for candy.
No, but there is a coin thing.
There is a coin thing.
Coin thing. Yes. He was renovating houses in Cape Town, and they lifted wooden flooring. So he found this coin from 17 something, and he gave it to me. My dad wasn't a very he didn't gift like bought stuff that much. He would, when he finds something that he found very special, he would keep it for me and give it to me whenever he sees me again. So I think he held on to that for like more than a year, because sometimes we didn't see each other for a really long time. So it's like this British, yes, 1703. That's a really old quote. I still have it. Yes,
Oh,
but so
wonderful.
he gave that to me.
The impression that I was getting with this coin was giving it to you, and there was just so much sentiment behind it that it felt like a treat. It felt like a present.
That was, yes, and it was very special too.
Okay. You said he renovated houses.
For a little while.
For a little while. I wrote down measurements, like I saw a ruler. Infrastructure seemed important, where it's just like, yeah, I think maybe that's where that was coming from.
My dad got very bored very quickly, so he went between different things, and he was a teacher for a bit, and he built houses, and he helped us with renovations, and he did electrical things, and he did just about everything for short bits.
He is showing me that at a very young age, that was his personality, and he was very hard to rein in. You know, he always had that energy of go, 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 and making his own rules and not listening based on what he wanted to do. Does that sound right? A little bit rebellious.
Yes, he was very rebellious. Yes.
I don't know if you knew his father at all, but he's kind of pointing to kind of clashing with his own dad a little bit.
There was his adoptive dad. They had major issues, yes. He hurt him a lot, and he was never really part of my life that much. He was when I was very little, but yeah, and he tried fixing things with him quite often, but yeah, at the end he died like at 92 or 94. He was really old, and he never really fixed things with my father. Yeah.
They were very different people.
Very, very different.
And the way your grandfather reacted to him was almost like lighting the fuse for your dad to whatever rebellious personality he had. It
Very
was
much.
just magnified with that.
My grandfather was a very kind of military male ruler. He was quite a mean person. So
yeah, maybe that was some of the energy that I was feeling coming through in the beginning too, where it was just kind of like you need to pay attention and do it now type of energy.
Yes, it could be him.
Yeah. Okay. Now, with your dad, I'm very much sensing with him that he had a passionate heart. He was an emotional person. He felt a lot of things and had a lot of creativity in him as well.
Yes, he did.
And he very much had the attitude that anything can be done. You just got to figure it out, and we aren't meant to just do one thing. We're meant to do everything. I think some people in life, they want to do as little as possible. He wanted to do everything.
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing that he's sharing with me is you would draw him things when you were little, and it was very important to him.
I still did that in high school and after school. But I did that as a kid too, yes.
He wanted to keep everything. He wanted to keep every doodle. They all meant something to him, and they were all very special to him. So I wanted to convey that to you as well.
Well, he also, when we went to his place after he died, he had my daughter's doodles up against his wall, which I wasn't aware of. So that was very sweet, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It mattered. It really mattered. And it's just something that was important to express how much he cherished all of that. He really did. He says that goals and choices in life, it's okay if they change. Just be committed at the time. Because we may change our mind as we go, but it's the committing and doing and finding out and then moving on that's important. You don't have to stay with one thing your entire life. It's just, but you should decide and try it out and experiment and try, that's the important part, actually, the doing and not just wondering and not committing to anything. That is very different. Not committing to anything, not doing anything is completely different than doing all the things and changing your mind or adapting as you go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Was there anyone else that you were hoping would come through tonight, or was there anything specific you wanted to ask?
My dad died very unexpectedly, right? He was alone and he was living quite far from me. And we're not sure when he passed, but it's like a frame of about 2 days. I think I know because I think I felt it. But yes,
Okay.
it's been bothering me. I don't know. And I was playing kids in the park, and I took this photo of them, and I wanted to send it to him, and I thought, but it's too late, and I didn't send it to him, because it didn't feel like it would. It's very weird to explain, but it felt like it was too late, and I know people were still talking to him that morning, and I only heard he passed 2 days after. I feel guilty about it.
Let me see what he has to say. He's showing me his favorite chair. He got up and then boom. It feels like he passed later than when you had that feeling. And it's not to invalidate your feeling. You probably just sensed that something was shifting. And there's something to that. But he's showing me that it was a little bit later. And he's proud of you for the choices you make. And he doesn't want you to feel like you made the wrong decision there, like you should have contacted him or something. It was later. It wasn't that there was nothing you could have done. It like that timing didn't quite line up. So even if you had sent the photo and had talked to him, you wouldn't have had any idea. So he doesn't want you to think that because you chose not to do it, things weren't alerted to. Does that make sense? Yeah. And he just wants you to know that never agonize over your choices, and because he's proud of you, and he's like the head on your shoulders, the heart in your chest. They're great, and you should never question that because you're beautiful as you are. Okay. So he doesn't want you to think that you missed a sign and you could have helped. It wasn't going on then. And you probably sensed something shifting in the energy, but it wasn't there yet. Okay. I hope that helps. Because that's a lot to take on. Yeah, he's always someone who was going, and it wasn't going to be predictable because it seemed like he was the type of person who could just keep going,
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't discuss things like that really. So it was.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Is that anyway? I can hear from my grandma.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's see if she's close. She seems... All right, this is the personality that is coming through with her. Very bright, kind of opinionated, fun, just a very nice, warm person who... It's almost like you had to stay on her good side, but it's more than that. It's like she's, you just had to keep up with her a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, she was very different. She was one of those artsy grandmas you read about in books, so yes.
Yeah, very energetic, very eccentric. And just knew herself, and life was going to be her life. And I love that so much. I wish she could share that energy with everyone. She's sharing this sense of like tootling around, like going around and like having little adventures.
When she got too old to drive, because she only died at 92, I think, she would walk. Yes, but she started getting quite severe dementia, but we couldn't keep her in. So she would kind of and go on these, because she loved talking to people. She interacted with everyone. So we would get calls from everywhere. It's like we found her because she didn't know how to get home. But before that, she loved visiting with everyone. And yes, it was very much her personality. She just loved people.
Yeah, I'm seeing her like tootling around and like all these different stop stations. Like you gotta go here, you gotta go here, you gotta go. And like if you could see that dotted line all over the city, that would be her. And like there's the little points and like they light up and it's like this is here and this is here and this is here and we're going over here. And so yeah, just that was what lit her up inside, just being able to interact. And yeah, there was no stopping her. She was not going to ever stay home.
No, she was not.
Oh, wow. What a force. What a lovely force. She had time and emotion and love for everyone. Like, just here, take this cup of love. Here, take this cup of love. Here, take that, let's just share in this joy and this emotion as we go through life.
Yeah, she also gave everything she had away to everybody all of the time. This was pre-dementia, didn't matter. She would give you her last things just to, I really to her. It's like she wasn't holding on to earthly things at all. It wasn't important to her. Yes.
Yeah. Sharing was much more important of an experience than keeping. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me see if she wants to say something to you quick. She is acknowledging challenges that you're going through right now, and she just wants to encourage you to keep going. Just keep going. It'll balance out. Take care of yourself. She knows it's really hard, but have faith that if you keep moving and keep going, it'll be okay. Does that make sense? She just really wants you to have faith in that.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. She loves you so much. And she thinks you're so bright. Don't let the muck get to you. It's just muck, and we can clean and we can get rid of it. That's what I'm seeing with her. She's just like, just get it out any way you can and focus on the bright things. Focus on the things that make you happy, because you deserve that happiness in your life. Okay. Okay. I do have a couple other messages for you that I wrote down. Yeah, the first thing I wrote down is keep going. Just keep going. They see you having successful new beginnings. Okay. Just support yourself through the transition. If you feel stuck right now, if you keep moving, you're going to encounter new beginnings and new things, and have faith in that and explore. When we wait for it to kind of show up, it doesn't show up, and then we get disappointed. But if we're actively kind of being curious about things, you're going to have some successful new beginnings. So have a lot of faith in that. Okay. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for letting me do this reading for you tonight and trusting me with that. Your family sounds so interesting, and there is a lot of love for you there. And I hope that I can convey that and you can feel it and know that it's there. Sometimes it can feel really subtle. And when our own emotions are in the mix, because the spirit world can be so subtle, it might feel like they're not there because we're kind of overriding our system with our own emotions. But know that they are there. They're always there for you. And it's not even a question of having to reach out and find it. They're always connected to you.
Yes, that's special. Thank you so much for the reading.
You are so welcome. Yeah. Before we go tonight, do you have a personal ghost story you'd like to share?
I do.
Listener ghost story.
My grandmother was a very eccentric, but she also liked pulling pranks. And so after she died, she lived in a house a bit away, but it was like this very old house. But it was while her husband was still living. They revamped it and they turned it into a fabric shop, and they sold clothes and things. So just after she died, it started being haunted. But they said they would dress up the mannequins, and in the morning when they come there, they will be dressed all funny in different clothes, and everything would smell like smoke. And they would be dressed up funny, and things would be moved around and hidden, and they said it felt like someone was pranking them all of the time. And they actually contacted my mother eventually because they had someone come out to come help them. We just thought it was so funny because it was absolutely her sense of humor that they were telling us. There was nothing malicious. It was just all the, but it was so on part for her personality. What they said was happening in this house. We just, yes, it was a very funny family thing to find out. Yes.
That is amazing. I mean, wow. There's so much about that. When we think about spirits, it's just always shocking to me when they have the energy to actually manipulate things and change things. I'm curious about your opinion on this. When something gets changed, do you feel like, all right, no one's watching this, but do you feel like the clothes slowly floated across the room and changed? Or do you think it was like instantaneous, like some kind of weird temporal thing? Have you ever thought about something like that?
I can see my granny dressing up for mannequins. I was like, that's something she would have loved. So if I think about it, I think it would be an immediate change. But if I think about my grandma, I can see her spending an hour making it as weird as possible. Paying attention to the details and, yes, just making it as uncomfortable for whoever shows up the next morning as possible.
I love that so much. I love that so much. Your grandmother sounds like an amazing woman.
She was lots of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I feel like that is the type of person everyone should strive to be in some aspect of their life, you know, to be that carefree and whimsical and fun, you know, and eccentric. That's just amazing. And I hope anyone who hears this is encouraged a little bit to do a little mischief, have a little fun in life, express yourself, be creative, share things with people. I really love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again. This has just been absolutely lovely. And I want to leave you with all of your family's love and support because they want to give it to you.
It was really nice meeting you, and I appreciate it so much.
So good meeting you too. Would you like a free spirit reading with me and record your reading for the podcast? Sign up for your chance to be selected by visiting italktoghosts.com/guest. And as an added bonus, if you don't want to leave your reading up to chance, I'll let you in on a secret. There's a discount offer to book a private session with me, so you can book a date and time for certain. Visit italktoghosts.com/guest for more details. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening, so thank you for joining me at my seance table. Tonight I'm going to be working with hawthornberry. If you're not familiar with hawthornberry, it is a lovely component to help you feel more grounded and centered and connected to your spirituality. So work with hawthornberry if those are elements that appeal to you. I'm going to ground and center and open up the space for a spirit. They are already coming in. This feels like someone's grandfather. He is sharing his personality of being a little bit of a jokester. Definitely love to have humor in his life. He's telling me he didn't have very many resources growing up, but boy, that did not stop him. And he has this magical zeal for life that nothing can bring him down, even though he really did face some challenges it's almost like it made the world brighter for him with that contrast. And he also is sharing that he did not like to talk about darker periods in his life, to the point where you might not have been aware that those existed. He just always felt that you need the personal fortitude to be able to accomplish things. And when you have that, you have everything you need, and the rest will just fall into place. And it's very encouraging. He's showing me that he liked to write short stories. When I ask him if he ever did anything with them, he's kind of scoffing a little bit. I'm like, oh, that wasn't the point. But hopefully you got to read some of these and you're aware that his writing exists. I feel like you do. His message for you tonight is he's bringing up an emphasis of how important friendship is right now in your life. It feels like if there's anything you can do, take a break, have a mini vacation, something with 2 or 3 of your friends, and just really celebrate each other and celebrate how every possibility is in life. And we kind of prove it to ourselves when we break out of our pattern and we go somewhere new. Seize that energy if you can. And also, it will just be a really good reset for you if you can incorporate some kind of grounding practice, centering practice, something that all of you as a friendship group can kind of connect with yourself and each other. He just thinks that's an amazing idea, and I think it's an amazing idea. I think we could all benefit from something like that. So keep that in mind in the future to look for those opportunities. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. If this message resonates for you, please reach out. I always love to hear when it does. In the meantime, thank you and take care. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed my spirit work that I shared with you this evening, as well as those spooky Ouija board ghost stories. Have you ever had a scary experience with a Ouija board? I really would love to hear about it, so please reach out. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.